Another Tuesday is upon us, and you know what that means. It means it's time for the Tuesday Titans Tossup here on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports. What do we do on the Tuesday Titans Tossup? Well, let me let you know. Every week during the Titans offseason, we toss up a topic related to the Titans, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about that topic, every bit of analysis, information, and opinion that we could possibly pilfer through, and we do it in less than 10 minutes. This week's topic is a fun one because this is our draft week episode of the TTT. Just 2 days from now, the Titans will be presumably on the clock at pick number 26, unless they trade up or trade down from that spot. But someone is going to be on the clock 2 days from now as the draft kicks off in Las Vegas. And we're going to be talking today about what the Titans absolutely have to accomplish in the 2022 NFL draft, because I think there's one specific thing relating to quarterback Ryan Tannehill that the Titans have to get done. We'll get into that in just one moment. First, though, a reminder that the TTT is presented to you by Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley Family and Cosmetic Dentistry here in Nashville. Now, my last teeth cleaning came courtesy of Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley, and it was a great experience for me. And we talk a lot about Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley here on the TTT, and one of the things we always like to hit on is that at their dental office, they treat all of their patients like family because they realize it can be difficult figuring out where to send your family, and they also put a lot of detail into their work. Now, lots of businesses, dental offices, or anything else say, well, we're attentive to detail, and it really doesn't mean anything. But as someone who's been to their office, who's been treated by them, I can attest to that fact. They go the extra mile for you. One example is when I went to get my teeth cleaned, my hygienist took the extra time to check my mouth for signs of mouth cancer. Thankfully, I didn't have any. And she also took the extra time to floss around the permanent retainer I have from when I had braces. That makes it more difficult to floss. They go the extra mile in that way. They do the extra effort for you because they treat you like family when you're at Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley. And they're not just a family dentistry. They don't just do your 6-month checkup. They do cosmetic work as well. And right now, you can get a discount on core whitening if you mention A to Z Sports when you make your appointment, which you can do by going to drhecklin.com. What the Titans absolutely have to accomplish in the 2022 NFL draft, I think it's really simple. Right, this isn't something that's going to take a whole lot of explaining and me sort of getting you to understand where I am on this, because I think that not everything I say is agreeable. I think this is one of those things where pretty much every one of you watching is going to be saying, yes, that's correct. That's what the Titans need to do, because what the Titans have to accomplish in the draft this weekend is they've got to get better around Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill has undergone a lot of criticism this offseason, plenty of it from me, because he blew the playoff game. It wasn't all his fault, but he made crucial mistakes in key moments that cost the Titans a trip to the AFC Championship game, and he had a turnover problem all season long. And the Titans have consistently stuck behind him all offseason. They've said, Ryan's our quarterback. John Robinson told the Tennessean, he said, I don't know how many more times I have to say it. Ryan Tannehill is this team's quarterback. And that's fine, because Ryan Tannehill is 30-13 in the regular season. He's not some kind of disaster. He did just have a down year. But for the Titans to improve next year, for them to get a step further than they did in 2021 when they were one and done in the postseason for the second straight year, they got to get better around Ryan Tannehill. And this is something that both John Robinson and Mike Vrabel have alluded to. Both have said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you can find sources where, online and in print, where both of them have said some variation of, we've got to be great around Ryan Tannehill. And this is the time to make that happen. It started in free agency, and I think they've done a good job so far of trying to make that happen, right? They went out in free agency and they signed Austin Hooper. They brought in Jamarco Jones to compete at left guard. And they also traded for Robert Woods, who, unlike Julio Jones, figures to play a vast majority of the season and of the snaps. But that was just phase one, right? What happened in free agency and with the trade for Robert Woods. That was step one of this, or it needs to have been step one of this. Because there needs to be a step two. There's got to be more, because right now, if the season were to start today, you would have Nick Westbrook-Akina and Jamarco Jones as starters in a 3 wide receiver set in 11 personnel. And that's not good enough. That's not great around Ryan Tannehill. That's okay around Ryan Tannehill. And I really think that if the Titans emphasize offense in this draft, they can achieve being great around Ryan Tannehill. Let me explain what I mean by that. If the Titans can, with their first round pick at 26, find either an offensive lineman or a wide receiver to start off with, I think my preference would be wide receiver. My inclination, my prediction is that it's probably going to be an offensive lineman. Zion Johnson, perhaps, from Boston College. But, start round one, find yourself a starter at wide receiver or offensive line, either right tackle or left guard, and let Dylan Radins, the second-year player, slide to the other spot. So that's step one. Step two, when you come back to pick in the third round, because the Titans don't have a second-round pick this year, when you come back to pick in the third round, get the other one. Right? If you start off with wide receiver, come back in the third round, get you an offensive lineman. If you go offensive line in the first round, you got to come back in round 3 and get a wide receiver. Now, I think receiver in the first round and guard in the third round makes the most sense because if you look back to what the Titans did a few years back with Nate Davis, right, who is now a reliable, firmly entrenched starter on this team, that's how they got him, was in the third round of the draft. You can find quality guard talent oftentimes that late. And, in the past, they've kind of waited too late on wide receiver and missed out on some guys. But that's the key to this draft, really. It's those first 2 picks. And I would even take it a step further and say, when you come back on day 3 in the 4th round, you got two 4th-round draft picks if you're the Titans, get a tight end. Go find someone young who you can develop behind Austin Hooper, who is not Jeff Swaim, who is good at very little. Go find yourself that player. And if you can do that with one of your 2 4th-round picks, and you can use your first 2 draft picks, round 1 and round 3, on receiver, offensive line in some order, then I think the Titans have a chance at being great around Ryan Tannehill because they have pieces in place, right? Taylor Lewan's great's probably an exaggeration. He's a good left tackle. He gets the job done and more. A.J. Brown is stellar. Derrick Henry is a superstar, obviously. And Robert Woods, when he comes into his own after recovering from his ACL injury, figures to be a very reliable weapon as well. And if they then progress off of that, right, with Austin Hooper, which they did, and finding those 3 pieces in the draft, life's going to be a lot easier for Ryan Tannehill in 2022. But it's going to have to be a priority for the Titans. They can't let things come to them. They might have to, quote-unquote, overdraft someone. But that should be the priority. Not necessarily, we're just going to take the best player that falls to us. But if you're the Titans, you're thinking, we're going to take the best player who falls to us, put a comma after that, who helps Ryan Tannehill, who helps the Titans be great around Ryan Tannehill, because more than anything else, that is what the Titans need to accomplish in the 2022 NFL Draft. Do you agree with me? Like, you folks watching this, let me know in the YouTube comments if you're watching on YouTube. Get at me on Twitter if you're watching or listening on another platform, at Luke_Worsham. You can tweet at our at A to Z Sports platform. Let me know how you guys feel, because my opinion is that everybody should have this view of the draft. Let me know if you do as well, or if you're thinking something else. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Tuesday Titans Tossup. Appreciate you all tuning in, and enjoy the draft, guys.